So in this question, we have two poles. Both the heights are 10 meters and it's actually 7 meters away from each other. In the question, it also says that the minimum height of the wire from the ground, which means the minimum point of the wire, to the ground is actually 3/4 height of the pole, which is 10 multiplied 3/4, which is 7.5. So the distance from the minimum point of the wire to the ground is 7.5. So in part A1, we need to find the equation of this wire but in the vertex form, and also it says assume A as the point of origin. So point of origin is from the x and y axis graph, you always draw the 0, right? So the 0 is the point of origin. So if I place a 0 here, this means the ground is the x-axis, the pole A is the y-axis. So to find the equation in the vertex form, we need to know the value of A, P, and Q, alright? 3 things. So recall back, the value of A represents the shape, P represents axis of symmetry, Q represents the minimum or maximum value. And also, if we combine the values of P and Q to form a coordinate, this coordinate is actually the minimum or the maximum points coordinate. Alright, so back to our diagram, right? We already identified the minimum point. So let's start off from this minimum point, find the value of P and Q first. Right? So the x coordinate of the minimum point is somewhere here, and we also know that this x coordinate represents the axis of symmetry, which means the middle line of this curve. And we also know the distance from these two poles is actually 7 meters. So from the 7 meters, we just find the midpoint, which is 3.5, right? 7 divided by 2. So our x coordinate would be 3.5. Therefore, our y coordinate is actually the distance from the minimum point to the ground, right? So the y coordinate is 7.5. And let's plug these two values inside our function first. So now, as you can see, we have left with 3 unknowns: f of x, a, and x. So the main issue, right, for this kind of questions is we are unable to find the value of a. So what we can do is, from this diagram, we find a point, because here we can plug the x coordinate of that point and the y coordinate of that point. So here, what I will use is the intercepts. For example, this one. I take the height of the pole, and this one is 10 meters, so the y-intercept would be 10. So by plugging the coordinates of the y-intercept, which is 0, 10, then you can see that all the unknowns have become numbers, and then I can just find the value of a, which is 10/49. So for my final answer, I just write out the 3 things: 10/49, 3.5, and 7.5. And for part 2, there is a bird at point C which is 100 cm horizontally from pole B, which means it is describing this distance. Point C is away from point B by 1 meter, and we need to find the height of the bird from the horizontal ground, which is this height, which also represents the y coordinate of point C. Because back to this point, right, 7.5, how we got is the distance from the wire to the ground. Distance from the wire to the ground. So to find this value, we can start off by finding the x coordinate. So in this pole B, the x coordinate here is 7, right? Because it's 7 meters away from the pole A. So just now it also says that point C is 1 meter away. So the x coordinate of point C, or the bird, is just 7 minus 1, which is 6. So now, with the value of 6, I can just plug this value back to this function here, and then I will find the distance, or the y coordinate, which is 8.78 meters. And for the last part, it says that when the weather gets warmer, the wire becomes more sagging. So means when it gets hotter, the wire become longer, causing the wire to be more closer to the ground. Right? So it asks, from the vertex form A, P and Q, what remains unchanged? Right, so I'll let you all to have 5 seconds to think about this. And the answer is axis of symmetry, because for both of these cases, right, both of these wires are actually tied to the same poles, and also the natural shape of the wire is symmetric. So regardless of the weather, it will always be symmetric, so the middle line of the wire will always be the same, which is here, which is why axis of symmetry is the answer. For a value of A is not the answer, because if you compare the shape of both of these graphs, right, the red wire is wider. So A is not the answer. And for value of K, if you compare the minimum values, for the black wire is here, but for the red wire is here, which is actually different. So K is not the answer. Right? So to answer this question, part B, we can say that the axis of symmetry remains unchanged, and you can write the axis of symmetry's equation, which is x equals to 7/2, or if you want to write x equals to 3.5, it's fine as well.